success, why we ought not rate our success on numbers. Listen, business is about numbers, but character is about the different thing, is about success. And success is all about how you get to those numbers, right or wrong. Today, I'm going to show you that while numbers are necessary for running sales organizations for sure, or any organization for that matter, including our family budget and personal lives, the lack of good character in achieving those numbers is false success. Hey everybody, welcome back to Reason for Truth. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo. Reason for Truth. Truth comes first. Then we backed it up with the reasons. But we're always and constantly learning. You have to be. Or you're just going to be regurgitating old facts. And you won't learn well. So we don't want to do that. I was in an outside sales position for many years. And I can attest to the fact that the marketplace success is based on numbers. Has to be. I'm not putting that down. It has to be. In sales, success is measured and driven by the numbers of cold calls, number of appointments, number of presentations, and number of closed deals. Some models include many other steps, but in the end, the value of a salesperson is based on how much money the salesperson brings to the organization. They're defined by what they close at the end of each month. To be blunt, compensating people on performance is the best way to reward salespeople. But selling based on one's character is the right and best model. I believe the numbers follow naturally. Got to get it backwards in today's culture. If a person is honest, hardworking, driven, fair, and remember, let me go back to hardworking and talented to be able to do the sales work that needs to be done, and they think of others first. Listen, some people say, you're never going to get ahead doing that. Well, there was once a day where that was true. That salesperson will, in most cases, outperform even other salespeople in their organization, right? They perform more highly than even the most strictly driven numbers salesmen. To be fair, there are many lazy and dishonest people. Sometimes these are Christians, and that's sad. We should never rest on the graciousness of the employer. If you're going to, you should be character-based. Part of being character-based is understanding numbers need to be achieved, and that, listen, numbers, we need to be successful for the company and for ourselves. But we ought not just make numbers the number one thing and forget about character. That's all I'm saying. And that's true in the marketplace and in the world in general. But laziness and slothfulness, that goes back to character. If doing business and closing sales with a foundation of good character sounds like a pipe dream, well, it's not. It's the way that America did business for the longest time. Numbers were always essential, but while character-driven business has never been perfectly executed anywhere in the world, nevertheless America, it was executed with a high level of success, I think up to roughly the 1990s. When a company judges a person strictly on their numbers, they create an environment based on a lack of character, caring for the person, a lack of moral values, more specifically, a lack of Christian values. God doesn't see numbers. He sees people, but he also expects us, if it's our responsibility to achieve numbers, well, either leave the job or make the numbers. But character comes first. Listen, if you're not achieving the numbers and you're staying in the job, you got poor character. You see what I'm saying? So it's important to understand that nothing acts or operates in a vacuum, okay? And numbers need to be achieved. So if Christian values such as do not steal, murder, lie, 10 Commandments, make sure we honor other people as you'd want to be honored. It used to be the culture of American business. They're no longer the cultural foundation, folks, of the business ethics that's running this country. Not at all. The two main choices are, if you decide that you don't want that, then you could choose from atheism, which is more communism or socialism. Every man and woman for himself, just eat the other person, knock them out. It's all numbers driven. It's kind of the main thing. You could also choose Islam, very community based. You're under a theocracy. You could also choose Hinduism, many gods. You have to choose from 100 or between like 330 million gods, and there's always growing. You can add one to it at any time. Well, the bottom line is these worldviews have already taken over much of the world's economic philosophies. But Christian values based on character still exist, and it can make a comeback and change the world. I want to remind you that Indonesia is the country of Indonesia is the highest populace of Muslims out of any other country in the world. And you know what? They never sent a missionary. Never sent any religious people to accomplish that. You know what they sent? Business people to start businesses. Sadly, when a salesperson's numbers are great, the sales manager artificially tends to elevate above top performing salespeople. I mean, they could do no harm. They could throw probably a box of dirt on their desk and go, oh, it's great. God forbid, wait till the first of the next month, and you could put, hey, how you doing? I don't want to talk to you. Go make numbers. In contrast, especially at the beginning of the month, the sales manager often treats the salespeople with cold faces, I just said, not wanting to speak with them unless there's a deal they need help with or something that's important. This is understandable. And this is understandably the American model for sales. Numbers-driven sales and business is necessary. It is the best model, but only when undergirded by Christian morality and ethics-driven value system based on what? Character. Those characters based on biblical principles. It must be that people and customers come for profit. They have to. You have to make a profit. But I firmly disagree with that fact that numbers-only model or numbers-first model without character component is wrong. So the goals, listen, goals are important. Sales is not for everybody, but everybody sells and everybody should have goals in one way, shape, or form. We should all have goals, including stay-at-home moms, teenagers, president of companies, the president and leaders of countries, so as well as sales managers, salespeople, and sales teams. But one's value system ought never be attached to a number as the primary focus, and one's character ought never be judged by their numerical success. You can judge them as how successful they've been, but I agree that if your numbers aren't met after a specific time, perhaps that person needs to look for another job, and they'd be better off to leave on their own rather than being let go. It'd be fair to the organization, right? This goes back to character and ego. If a salesperson or a president of a school is unable to do their job, but also stays in that job, they'd be being dishonest to themselves and the company, the organization, and perhaps to God himself who gave them gifts, giftedness, and skills and talents. This includes opportunities. Let's not be that person. You're going to have to answer to that. You can be a salesperson, the same thing. You could be sales manager and be in the same position. Could be a president of a company, be in the same position. You could even be anywhere in any role, community, and even in a family sometimes. And if you're inept to do it, listen, give it to somebody who could do the job right. My personal story, I used to be an outside sales manager with CompuCom, a premier computer company in McLean, Virginia. It's outside CIA headquarters, if you're wondering. I sold strictly to government accounts, Washington, D.C., and among those accounts was a Census Bureau. Oh, boy, that was an adventure. It's a huge. They've been headquartered in Suitland, Maryland since 1942, and their building literally is like a small city with restaurants, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. When I used to sell them, I remember I used to bring a bag lunch, right? Sit in the cafeteria, and I used to overhear the most horrible, horrible stories in terms of people, well, it didn't work that hard. But, and I heard stories of immoral things, and I'm like thinking, what the heck, And why would you take a job? Some people say, I work for government. How about that? That's not private sector. Well, make sure you're doing your job. Make sure that God is using you to the maximum in that job. Make sure you're working hard. And if you're punished for working hard, which often happens in some, especially federal jobs, because they don't want other people to, get called on the carpet, they make them look bad, I'd say you have a moral obligation to move on because God's given you gifts and it's a waste of human capital, your giftedness and what God could do for you. I'll leave it at that. The point of this episode is not talk about the Census Bureau, government, salespeople. Listen, I'm going to tie this into the Bible, though, 2 Samuel, whereby we read about David's taking the census. Remember that? He's numbering the people, which was usually done for the purpose of taxation and military draft. David's sin was in putting faith in numbers rather than in God, and this is the danger of measuring success strictly by numbers, biblical character. He wasn't supposed to do that. He wasn't supposed to be looking at the numbers. Nothing wrong with the numbers, but he's going to base his decisions based on that. To be fair, numbers, again, are necessary living out our lives, including how organizations run their sales organizations in general. So with that in mind, God today is with us. Today, as he was with King David in 2 Samuel, and there are occasions by which we are not to use numbers. In David's case, he was not to measure the number of citizens due to the fact that it would puff up David's ego and give him a false sense of his own worth, power, and success, as opposed to depending on God, who gave him all the glory and the honor and credit. And this will be the subject of part 2. So in conclusion, in the end, the building of a business, the successful sales team must be numerically driven to some extent. But that being said, they must also be character-based. Character needs to come before numbers, and if that's true, character is not going to let the number slack. If you're a little low 1 month, that person's character says, I got to work harder, do things better. Personal development and understanding based on biblical character. The final determiner of true success in God's eyes boils down to how a person or a manager or an organization gets those numbers done or accomplished. While numbers are necessary for running any organization, our family, budgets, personal lives, a lack of good character and achieving those numbers leads only to a heartless organization and wrongly driven profits. So as we wrap up here, it doesn't have to be that way. In our next episode, we're going to look down at what happens in the biblical story, David, ordering of numerical census for personal ego and trying to achieve those numbers apart from God. So please do me a favor. This is a whole lot of information, but I tell you what, let's make sure that we're numbers driven, that we whatever the company needs to do to get ahead, we work hard to achieve that. Let's be character driven. First, that means honest, truthful, hard work ethic, and all the other good things God gives us and tells us to be like. So as we wrap up here, let's make sure you do a couple things. You want to get trained up? That's a good way to prepare and do better. Go check out some online courses at equippedacademy.com or christianonlinetraining.com. Either way, that'll take you over there. Great resources. Then before you leave, make sure you share this with others. Like it. And bam, Goncio Sinistro. Hit that subscribe button. Bam, knock it out. Grab that bell when it's down there. Subscribe. You won't miss any of them. Appreciate you tuning in. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo. This is your Reason for Truth for today.